Good morning. I'm Kyle Gatlin, senior pastor. And I have a question to ask many of you, but particularly you guys over here. You ever been ghosted? Raise your hands over here. I'm talking to our students. You ever been ghosted? Right? I see your student minister director is raising her hand. Have y'all ghosted her? Have y'all ghosted Lauren? I hope not. Yeah, she says you have, right? So for the rest of the world, ghosted means that somebody just cut off communication, right? They not respond to your DMs, they not respond to your text message, they don't return your phone call or emails, whatever it is. You don't have any explanation. You don't have any closure. You're left wondering, right? Why did they ghost me? Why did they ghost me? You know, I think sometimes we feel the same way with God. We cry out to God and we get silence. And we feel, okay, God must be ghosting me. What is going on? We get frustrated. We start questioning. We start doubting, right? Because we don't have any answers. We don't have any answers. And we're left to question. We're left to question. You know, it's one thing to be ghosted by someone that you know, like a friend or family person. But when you feel ghosted by God, man, it just makes the experience deeper, right? There's a deeper hurt there when you feel like that you have been ghosted by God. Well, David lets us in on being ghosted by God. David, in Psalm chapter 13, really explains in his words how he feels when he was ghosted by God. So look at first couple of verses. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? David is waiting on God. He's waiting. How long? How long? How long? How long? David is waiting on God. And I don't know about you, but waiting is tough, isn't it? Waiting is tough. You know, the average American waits 30 to 80 minutes a day between traffic, between phone calls, on a call waiting holding on a call for customer service, or just waiting in traffic. It doesn't matter, right? Waiting in a doctor's office. Depending on where you are, 30 to 80 minutes of waiting every day. We're not going to get into waiting on a spouse. We're not going to get into that one. That might double our numbers per day. I don't know that for sure, right? But we don't like waiting. But David's letting us know it's part of life. And it's part of his life. And it's part of his experience here because he's waiting on God. How long? There's four distinct questions he's asking. How long will you forget me? How long will you hide your face? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts? And how long will my enemy have the upper hand? That's the questions that he is asking God. In his waiting to get the answers, these are going on in his life. This is what he's feeling. I feel like you've forgotten me. You're hiding from me. I'm wrestling with these thoughts and these doubts about you. The enemy is winning. So here's what David feels. When he gets silenced back, when he gets ghosted by God, here's what he feels. God's forgotten him, God's avoiding him, and God's allowing the enemy to win. That's the way he feels. I'm not saying that that's accurate, but I bet many of you feel the same way. I bet many of you feel the same way as it pertains to life. And you feel like that God is ghosting you. When things are overwhelming in your life, when you're dealing with frustrations and when you're dealing with pain, when you're feeling with discomfort, when you're dealing with relationship junk that happens to all of us, and you're crying out to God, you all feel ghosted. You all feel ghosted. And you feel like when you cry out to God, look, He's avoiding me. He's forgotten about me. My enemy is winning. Whatever that enemy means to you. So this is where we all feel. And I want to let you in on a little secret to feel ghosted, right? You don't feel ghosted unless you have a relationship with someone, right? I don't feel ghosted by Harrison Ford and Kevin Costner. I just don't, right? I don't know them. I don't know them. How can they ghost me, right? But they have not sent me a message. Neither one of them have. Neither one of them called me. So what, right? I don't have a relationship. But as a follower of Jesus Christ, I have a relationship with his Father. And because I have a relationship with his Father, I expect something out of that relationship. And when it does not meet my expectations, then I feel ghosted. I feel that God has been silent toward me. I feel that God is hiding himself from me or forgotten me, or he's just saying, okay, the enemy's going to win in this case. That's just the way I feel. David, the writer of this psalm, has a relationship with God. He has a relationship with God. David is a man after God's own heart. The Bible tells us that. But here's what we need to understand about David. We don't know when Psalm 13 was written. A number of psalms give us the period in David's life when it was written. But this one does not. But we can sort of extrapolate a few things from David's life and say, these might have been the instances where David could have penned this or could have prayed this. Or it might have been David prayed this multiple times because of a few things in his life. David was anointed at a very young age as the next king of Israel. Saul was the king of Israel. David was anointed by the prophet Samuel. You are the next king of Israel. You will succeed Saul. Saul was first king of Israel. David, you're going to be the second king of Israel. But David was anointed at a very young age, and estimations are that it took 13 to 15 years before David actually ascended the throne. So you had 13 to 15 years where he literally could have said, how long, God? How long? You said I was going to be king. How long? When's it going to be? During those 13 to 15 years, we know that Saul, the current king of Israel, tried to kill David. So David literally was on the run for his life, hiding in caves, going from here to there, making alliances with Israel's enemies. David was doing all that to try to stay alive. So in one of those instances where he's hiding in a cave, he could have said, how long, God? Or after David was king. After David was king, one of his own sons, Absalom, tried to kill him as well. And David had to go on a run again. So it could have been then that David said, how long? How long, God? Any of those times, David legitimately could have said, God, you're ghosting me. God, you're ghosting me. And I want to remind you of this. What David's experiencing and what David's writing about is not abnormal. It's actually normal. I know you don't want to hear this, but here's the truth. Going through struggles, going through frustrations, going through pain, going through discomfort, going through relationship issues is normal. It's normal. In this world, you will have trouble. You will have trouble. And probably everybody in this room needs to have a pet and just name them Trouble, just to remind you in this world you're going to have trouble, right? That would be the easiest thing to do, so you'd be reminded every day. Easy is not promised. There's not an easy button that we can wake up in the morning and push so that life will be exactly the way we want it, the way that we desire it. Easy is not promised, but easy is what we strive for. Do you know that? Easy is what we really want, and we strive for it, and we'll do anything we can to get there. So normally you would repeat this, you could finish this phrase, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? You would normally repeat that and go, well, when going gets tough, the tough get going. But here's what we normally do. When the going gets tough, the tough get going to find comfort, to find the easy way out. That's what we're looking to do. That's what we're looking to do. I love the senior in high school that's waited many years to play and start for his varsity team, his or her varsity team. I love those kids that hang in there because you can still transfer schools even in high school. And we know in college you can transfer like that. And I love those 4th and 5th year seniors that we find on our college teams. We love those players, love those athletes that hang in there to get to start finally after so much blood, sweat, and tears. And I love the older church couple who's hanging in their own local church because they believe God's going to move in their church. And they hang in there and they hang in there. But what we find so much in our Western Christianity world today, in our Western churches, is when somebody gets challenged in their local church by either their small group or their pastor or just the way the church or the direction of the church, they get challenged, they go find somewhere else. They go to find another church. An easy life is actually counterproductive to our faith. An easy life is actually counterproductive to our faith. Because here's what I discovered. Those with a deep faith have deep hurts. Those with deep faith have deep hurts. Many of you in this room know that I've been a part of this church community since 1999, which means I've seen a number of people go through pain, struggles, relationship problems, all these things. Some very severe, some very long and drawn out, some very, very, very painful. And in most cases, what I've seen is the people that are going through this, it doesn't push them away from God, it pulls them closer to God. Because those with deep faiths have deep hurts, and those with deep hurts end up having deep faith. Their scars actually tell the story of their faith. There is one lady in our church that will say this to your face, and she will post it on Facebook time and time again. In essence, this, and she's been going through a struggle for 6 years, I think now, maybe 7, with a medical issue. How she'll phrase it like this: I don't know how anybody can go through what I've been going through and what I have gone through without Jesus. Scars tell the story of the faith. Your scars will tell the story of your faith. But what faith will that be? What faith will that be? Well, I like what David goes on to say here. Verses 3 and 4, look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. He's basically saying, God, my life is on display. I have chosen to follow you. I'm a man after your own heart. Everybody knows it. All my family knows it. All those in my kingdom know it. All those who serve under me know that I follow you with my heart, soul, mind, and strength. So my life is on display. And if this keeps up, God, if you keep ghosting me, how's that going to look? That's what he's really putting God on a guilt trip. God, if this goes on, and you quit it, and you never answer me, and then I end up dying, then my enemy is going to sit there and laugh and say, I told you so. My enemy gets the last laugh. We'll do anything. We'll do anything where we're in desperation mode. When we feel like God has ghosted us, we'll say and do anything, right? And this is where David's at. He's not opposed to putting God on a guilt trip, to try to get him to speak, to try to get him to move. Do something, God. How long? How long? I need you to move. I need you to do something in my life right now. I think all of us probably have come across people, maybe even close friends, that have abandoned their faith because they felt God had ghosted them. I bet all of us can find people in our life, if we think about it a little bit. Maybe you got somebody real close to you. Maybe you actually showed up here today or watching online and you're considering abandoning your faith because you feel like God has ghosted you. You may be in that boat right now and you're considering jumping ship because you feel like God has ghosted you. Even the darkest voices will admit that silence from God feels overwhelming. Do you know that? But there's a flip side too, that there's those who have found faith in desperation. Here, I'm going to give you these two examples. Bertrand Russell is an atheist philosopher. And he bleakly says that this statement right here, Bertrand Russell. Can we go? Yeah, we go. It's an atheist, right? He's writing this as an atheist to atheist. We stand on the shore of an ocean, crying to the night and to emptiness. Sometimes a voice answers out of the darkness. So you get the picture? Person who doesn't believe in God is crying out. They're in pain, they're frustration, they're angry, they're hurting, whatever. They're crying out to emptiness, and sometimes a voice answers out of the darkness. But it's a voice of one drowning. And in that moment, silence returns. The world seems to me quite dreadful. The unhappiness of most people is great. So even the atheist admits, we're crying out. We're not crying out to God because we don't believe in God. We're crying out to something, and the answer we get back is from another person who doesn't believe in God, but they're drowning like I am drowning. It's a dreadful state. So even from the darkest places, we actually get overwhelming proof that there is something about God that even those who don't believe in God will go, you got it better than I do. Now, the other opposite end of that is from when I was reading from a Holocaust survivor. A Holocaust survivor, 6 million people, 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust in World War II, concentration camps in Europe. 6 million. 6 million. And so this Holocaust survivor who survived the concentration camps, 3.5 million people survived these concentration camps. So one of the survivors says basically, your thinking is wrong if you blame God for the 6 million lives that were lost in the concentration camp. You're blaming God for not saving those 6 million. And this guy goes on to say, he said, what we should be doing is recognizing each day that we have, whether we have a long life or a short life, each day we have is from God, and he should be worshiped. This is a Holocaust survivor said this. I also find it interesting that, everybody that went into these concentration camps was, Jewish, mostly Jewish by heritage, not by religion. So there was atheists, those who did not believe in God, ended up in the concentration camp, not because they believe in God, but because they simply were labeled from their heritage as a Jew. When the 3.5 million survived, we found out that 177,000 that had been atheists now believe in God after coming out of the concentration camps. After going through literally hell on earth, they came out with faith in God. David ends this psalm with this. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. David is not writing these last couple verses out of being ghosted by God. He's writing this out of God coming through for him in the past. He's writing about past experience, not his current. He's not writing about his current predicament where he's crying out and God's ghosting him. He's writing this conclusion to his prayer right here based on prior experience with God. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise. He says this not based on feelings. You see, if he was basing this on feelings, the feelings go back to the first few verses, right? How long will you forget me? How long will you hide from me? How long am I going to wrestle with my doubts? How long is my enemy going to win over me? And I'm feeling like you've abandoned me and you've forgotten me. That's how I feel. But he's not writing out of feelings. You see, it doesn't matter what we feel. It doesn't change the nature of God. Our feelings don't change the nature of God. Brennan Manning, a wonderful man of faith, says this: to be grateful for an unanswered prayer, to give thanks in a state of interior desolation, to trust in the love of God in the face of marvels, cruel circumstances, obscenities, and commonplaces of life, is to whisper a doxology in the darkness. To whisper a praise to God in the darkness. But I trust in your unfailing love, God. My heart rejoices in your salvation, God. I will sing your praise, for you have been good to me. In silence now, yes. But I have unfailing love. I trust your unfailing love. I know there's salvation in you. And I'm going to sing your praises. A song that's been part of the church for many, many years. If you've been in church at any length of time, you have sung this song. What a friend we have in Jesus. What you don't know is the story behind the song. The writer of the words is a guy named Joseph Scriven. Joseph was engaged, about to get married. The day before his wedding, his fiancée drowned. The day before his wedding, his fiancée drowned. He moved to Canada. He found love again, was engaged to be married. His fiancée got sick and died before the wedding. He then goes on to pour his life into caring for the sick and the poor. Got word that his mother, who was in Ireland, had gotten sick. So he wrote a poem to her. And that's a poem that we now sing. What a friend we have in Jesus. So when we sing the lyrics to this song, we're not just singing a poem, we're actually reciting a testimony. A man who had deep loss but saw Jesus. Do you feel ghosted? Do you feel like God's abandoned you? Let me remind you of this. God's silence doesn't mean his absence. God's silence does not mean his absence. So the question, you may have a question this week. This question may come up for you this week. How long? You may be asking this question this week. How long? How long? My invitation to you today is this. Trust deeper, pray honestly, and know that God is always good. God's always good. Even in silence, he is worthy of our song.